Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and you're watching PNN. I'm going to do another critique of this video from Fox. This is, I think, a House member that the Fox journalist is interviewing here. Caputo, I think it is his name. Caputo, I think it is. All right, so let's play it.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me. This meeting between Lincoln and the Saudi defense minister, there's been some criticism of the Saudis that they haven't been more, not necessarily supportive of Israel. We understand where they stand, but they haven't, been exactly even condoning Israel or helping Israel in any way, certainly, or that is the perception with their Arab neighbors. Are you worried? Well, yeah, to some extent, but I will say this, just given the history of Israel and Mecca and Saudi Arabia, they have been enemies in the past, but lately with the Abraham Accords, and I hope this visit will expand those, the normalization agreement, they understand the enemy of the enemy is my friend, and that is Iran. So they fear Iran the most. They don't like Hamas's tie and allegiance to Iran, nor Hezbollah. So I see this as by the way, this meeting was supposed to take place before the Hamas even invaded Israel. Hamas, you asked me in a previous interview, why now? Why did Hamas attack Israel? Well, it was the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur fight, but also I believe that Hamas saw the normalization taking place between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and they want to do something to stop it. So I think right now our credibility is on the line. If we're not successful in Israel, our credibility in the Arab world will go down the toilet, and then Iran and China.
I love when he said go down the toilet. This is McCall from Texas, Republican, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman. So he's got a powerful position.
Will come in and fill the vacuum.
Congressman, you're right to go back 50 years ago, the Yom Kippur War, a very different environment then, and the Arab world stuck together, not only against Israel, but against us helping Israel. That led to, the Arab oil embargo, the long gas lines, and we can all remember that, those of a certain age. So now the question becomes, it's a very different environment, I get that, but you don't hear condemnation of Hamas from anyone in the Arab world, and I wonder what that could tell you.
Well, I think certainly in Jordan, they have a lot of Palestinians in their population. Egypt basically tried to kick them out and threw them in the Gaza Strip. If you look at history there, nobody wants them. And that's part of the problem is the humanitarian crisis. None of these Arab nations want to receive the Palestinians. So that takes us to the Rafah gate itself. I just heard the first American citizen just got released out of there. That's what we want to see. But we also don't want a gate that's going to be open to fund and equip and arm Hamas. So I think that the screening has to be very carefully done. And I've been given assurances it is, but we don't want to be funding this war, funding Hamas in this war against Israel.
Yeah, not all Americans are finding that pathway out so easy. We're going to be talking to a young couple dealing with that as we speak, Congressman. But to your point, it is supposedly being checked and rechecked. But ahead of that, I did want to get your take on aid that might be coming Israel's way. You've been among those concerned that it's Israel-only aid, that eventually you said at the end of the day, we must see the Ukraine.
I am 100% on separating the aid between Ukraine and Israel, right? And also separating the aid for Israel to other domestic policies, such as, border security and the whole fentanyl issue and, other, domestic funding. Here's the problem with the Democrats. They're going to try to spin this where crisis in Israel, they need help, they need funding, they need support. Hamas needs, not Hamas, Palestinians. This is even though Hamas and the Palestinians, sometimes You don't know who's who. The Palestinians need aid. All right. The Democrats are going to try to mix that package with aid to Ukraine. And there is so much corruption in Ukraine. And honestly, I don't think Zelensky is performing on the battlefield like we're being told in the news. I think they have depleted their munitions, depleted their assets, and I think they've depleted their troops. I think the death toll on the Ukrainian side is way higher than it's being published. And it's gotten to the point where he can't advance anymore. Plus, there's corruption, right, within his government and with him. So I am dead set on making sure that we defund the Ukrainian war. We need to help with Israel. But my feeling is Israel can pay for the weapons. We should not be giving the weapons to them through an aid package, because a big part of the aid package would be money flowing to a state that's making the weapons that were given to Israel. Not all of it, but that a big part of it. All right. No, Israel can pay for the damn weapons. The American taxpayers are fed up with the inflation of the Democratic Party. All right. And what that does is that there's an extra incentive. That means that Israel, it's not on the U.S. dime, and you have a limited amount of time to get the job done. It forces the issue. It solves this kicking the can down the road problem. Because if Israel knows that they have a certain time frame and a certain amount of money that they have to pay to be able to get those weapons, that means that they have to get the job done, or the clock runs out and the money runs out. So it forces the issue to solve the problem and root out Hamas, right? But instead, what's going to happen is that it's going to be given to Israel, right? And that's another mechanism where it's just kicking the can down the road. So there's a multitude of issues that are going on with this omnibus kind of package deal that they're mixing up with Ukraine, domestic policy, and Israel. Israel should be paying for it. We should be defunding Ukraine. And we should have another bill that's dealing with domestic problems.
Brad, as linked together with Israel, what did you mean by that?
Well, all these threats are linked together. When you look at who our adversaries are and their alliance, quite frankly, between Putin and his invasion of Ukraine and threat to Europe, to Chairman Xi in China and his threat to Taiwan and the Pacific, the greatest we've seen since my dad's war, World War II. And then you look at the Ayatollah in Iran and his threat to Israel. They're all enemies of the United States and the West, and they're all tied together. They're all linked together. I think this package, we're going to start with Israel, and that's appropriate given the threat to Israel and the urgency. But all these threats are.
Yes, there's a three-front war that's happening in the world: Ukraine, Middle East, Asia. That's evolving, right? But we can stalemate the Ukrainian issue by defunding it. We need to make sure that we have our armed forces ready and willing and able to absolutely destroy China when they try to take over Taiwan and the Taiwan Strait. 50% of the goods flow through there. We need to make sure that we maintain our hegemonic power. So some people say, oh, you're just a warmonger. Well, why am I saying defund Ukraine? Because there's the poking of the bear. And I don't think Russia's actually as big of a threat, and they should have been an ally to us. If we were more allied to Putin, they would have been able to help us in the Middle East and be able to help us in Asia. Now, because we've been poking the bear and thinking that NATO should be expanding eastward. Now we have a three-front problem, right? We caused that issue. De-escalate that area by defunding Ukraine and stop the aggressive behavior of NATO and focus on the Middle East and focus on the hegemonic power that the Chinese are trying to project and take away from us. If we put too many of our eggs in the Ukrainian basket, we're going to lose Asia.
And together. And the last one, Neil, quite frankly, is the last line of defense, and that's our southwest border. So we have to tackle all these issues, I think, to really deal with the threats that we face as a nation.
You know, Chairman, and I'll be dealing with this with other guests throughout this show, as I had earlier on Fox Business, this notion that Iran's provocative attacks, even through emissaries or, rogue, groups, is such 28 attacks in little more than 2 weeks. And our response has been to go after, those entities that are acting on Iran's behalf, but not on Iran itself. Do you think that's a mistake? Should we target Iran if we have unequivocal proof Iran is behind these attacks on?
Absolutely destroy their missile and nuclear capability. And we should do it within 2 days. Full out missile strikes on Iran. 2 days. 48-hour operation, totally level the fucking place. And decapitate the Ayatollah.
But soldiers.
Well, I don't think we want to see escalation, and that would require an authorization of use of military force that would come out of my committee, the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We don't want to see escalation with Hezbollah or Iran, and that's why the deterrence is so important.
No, we don't want to solve the problem. We want to just kick the can down the road and have them get weapons of mass destruction and have more means of unconventional warfare, biological, chemical, and radiological. Yeah, we don't want to solve the problem.
The carrier strike groups now in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf provide that deterrence against Hezbollah in Iran, but I think the administration was a little slow in responding to the attacks on our soldiers in Iraq and Syria.
If you can just hang on to that point. The president is speaking right now in, I believe, Northfield, Minnesota. I believe he's addressing the Israeli situation.
Israel and President Sisi of Egypt and others to make sure that we could open this access for people to get out. I want to thank our partners in the region, and particularly Qatar, who worked so closely with us to support negotiations to facilitate the departure of these citizens. At the same time, we're continuing working to significantly step up the flow of critical humanitarian assistance in the Gaza. The number of trucks entering Gaza continues to increase significantly, but we still have a long way to go. The United States is going to continue to drive humanitarian support for innocent people in Gaza who need help, and they do need help. We're going to continue to affirm that Israel has the right to responsibility to defend its citizens from terror, and it needs to do so in a manner that is consistent with international and humanitarian law that prioritizes protection of citizens. We've all seen the devastating images from Gaza. Palestinian children crying out for lost parents. Parents reasoning and writing their children's names on their hands and legs to be identified if the worst happens. It's okay. Kids are allowed to do that with me. Don't worry about it, all right? I don't blame her. It's him or her. I don't blame her. Look, the loss of every
This reminds me of it, and I have never said this before on the show. Back during the Obama administration, while when I was working at Catholic Charities, there was an event because Catholic Charities help fund like food pantries and all these different social programs within New York, and I was managing the portfolio and doing the corporate finance stuff for many of the different corporations. That there's like 14 corporations within the whole umbrella of Catholic Charities, and did a lot of budgets and forecasting too for Catholic Charities on top of the portfolio. But there was this event. I don't remember what year it was. I want to say maybe it was 2014. Maybe it must have been an election year, so maybe it was 2014, and it was a local election thing, and Vice President Biden came in to help support one of the candidates that were the local. Maybe it was I'm not sure if it was a congresswoman or if it was a councilwoman for a local election. It was midterm. It must have been midterm election. So it was in a gymnasium at a school. I don't remember which school it was in, but it was a public school, so a PS, right? And this was like maybe in the Bronx or maybe in Harlem. It might have been in Harlem. But he was speaking in the gymnasium. I remember there were a lot of security. There were magnetometers that you had to go through, and there were Secret Service agents because he was the VP. And the woman speaking, and there weren't that many people in the gymnasium, all right? And it was a local election, so I guess, it wasn't a big deal. But I went with a coworker, even though I'm Republican, I wanted to see him speak because I never saw him speak. So, it would be, I just thought I just wanted to be there. I don't agree with his policies at all. So, and he was somewhat quiet. He was sitting sitting down while they were introducing the candidate, right? The local candidate, and then the VP. So there was like an introduction person that was trying to rile up the gymnasium. And, most of the people there were, middle class, lower middle class, I would say. And trying to get kind of like that city worker union kind of thing going on there. And she was riling up the people, and I had this terrible, terrible headache. And ones that know, ever since I was a kid, I've had these chronic headaches, going all the way back to maybe 5 years old. And I remember I have these periods of time where I just have a really, really bad headache, and then it'll go away. And that's part of the reason why I've been able to do a lot in a very short amount of time. I had to learn how to do that because I would have a headache for 3 days, and then I had to do a lot that were to catch up. And it's been like that for all of my life, except a very short period of time in my mid-30s. But been chronic headache sufferer, right? Migraines and all this, and it's sometimes it lasts for days, especially during stressful periods. And I remember having that terrible headache, and these liberals there that were on the platform, talking that mic, and it just so happened that we were standing in the back, and the speaker system was right next to me, and it compounded my headache. And so I'm trying to rest my head, and there's no place to sit, so I'm just standing. I'm trying to lean on kind of like this railing that's in the back, and it just, the way everything was set up, there was the speaker next to me, and I'm just rubbing my head. And I remember looking at the Vice President Biden, and he saw me because this is a very small venue, the way this was set up, and it almost like the size of a half court, right? And I'm rubbing my head, and I just had this terrible headache, and you have this liberal screaming, about how, the rights of all these, these service workers in the city. And I'm rubbing my head while my elbow is up against the speaker and it's just like blaring, her mouth, and it's just like I had a headache before I went there, but it made it seem as though the crazy liberal talking in the microphone was giving me the headache. And I looked at Biden and he made a comment of what I was doing, and it just made it just this classic woman raging, liberal woman raging, and white male rubbing his head like of a headache, right? It was comical in a way, but that was my only experience on a personal level on seeing Biden, and him being in a small venue kind of reminded me of this incident at the gymnasium back, I think it was 2014. Yeah, I think it was around there, somewhere in there. Must have been midterm election after. Was it midterm election? Maybe even before that. Maybe it was 2014. What was it? Obama got into office in 2008. And so the general election would have been 2010. No, 2012. Oh, it might have been. No, it probably was midterm election of the second term. Might have been the midterm election of the second term. If it was 2014, it might have been 2012. It might have been 2012. It's possible. It's either 2012 or 2014. I can't remember which year it was. But it was just like, I remember that headache and just looking at him and then him making the comment about, I don't remember what he said in his speech, but I remember having that headache and his noticing me of having the headache while this crazy liberal was speaking. I just thought that was funny, but he was more, he had more, when he was speaking at that event, he spoke much more fluently and, and didn't seem so robotic. Here, he seems very robotic.
So life is a tragedy. We grieve for those deaths and continue to grieve for the Israeli children and mothers who were brutally slaughtered by Hamas terrorists, and also continue to hold in our hearts the hundreds of families and loved ones, including small children and elderly grandparents, including American citizens being held hostage. My administration continues to work around the clock to reunite those families. We're not going to give up, period. We're not going to give up. And I am optimistic, but then I am an optimist. Folks, now I want to thank Brad for the introduction. Brad said he wasn't sure what a good speaker was. He can speak a hell of a lot better than I can farm.
Yeah, I was talking about this opening of the Rafah crossing today from Gaza. It is an entry point and an exit point that Egypt orchestrated here to allow those who want to get out to get out. Not everybody, though. There's a limit to how many can come out. We're joined again by Chairman McCall, who was patient enough to go through that. Chairman, the president makes clear that this is a good first step. Of course, Egypt is providing that opportunity. Separately, France and the Netherlands are drawing up plans to get aid, presumably through that same entry point into Gaza. But what do you make of how it's going thus far? Because part of checking who gets out is making sure that Hamas fighters are not among them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I know this has been a great diplomatic effort with Qatar, UAE, Saudis, Egypt. I can tell you the last thing Egypt wants to do is let a radicalized Palestinian Hamas come into their country. If you go back in time, there was that very faction, the Muslim Brotherhood, that lit up Al-Qaeda in their prisons with Zawahiri. So it's in their best interest not to allow that to occur. I know they're vetting people coming out of there. And I think also, if you look at the battle plan that's taking place in Gaza, if you look at the middle of Gaza, you see the Israeli IDF, the military, going across to basically construct a blockade, if you will, that will then open up a humanitarian zone, cutting Hamas out of South Gaza and trapping them in north of Gaza, where they intend to deal with that threat and try to rescue hostages.
So, Chairman, and you had touched on, you were really interrupted there, but this notion of responding to Iran by attacking Iran or points at Iran and not some, desert hut or something in the middle of nowhere, because you think you're taking out those who are acting on Iran's behalf. What do you think of that?
Well, they have proxies, right? And they operate through their proxies. They don't engage in this on their own. The IRGC does for sure, but they really rely on their proxies, which are like the tentacles of Iran, that being Hamas, Hezbollah, the militia groups in Iraq and Syria, the Houthi rebels, and that sort of thing. We've been looking at updating our AUMF from 2001. We need to look at the terror proxies coming from Iran. But I think to step it up to bomb Iran right now would really be a big escalation that I'm not sure it would, I think, intensify things, not cool things down.
You were touched on as well about your hope that we get a security package that looks after the needs of Israel and Ukraine. But your new speaker, Mike Johnson, is not a fan of that, wants to limit it to Israel for the time being.
Right.
You've seen optimistic down the road that both countries' needs will be addressed. You want them addressed now. He seems to be saying Israel first, down the road, Ukraine. That looks like an impasse.
Well, the talk of the day right now is Israel, and I think it's important we show our support for Israel. But what we do want to see is we can't abandon our allies in Europe. We can't withdraw out of Ukraine.
Get out of Ukraine.
Look what happened there. And Putin said in 1 week he'd take over Ukraine. Then what kind of world are we looking at where our adversaries are emboldened like Putin, Chairman Xi, and the Ayatollah? I think the speaker has this about right. What he's looking at is a very strong border security package attached to the Ukraine aid package. That's something back home, that's all my constituents talk about. If we can't deal with the political asylum issue, which is the real magnet here, then we're really failing to address the problem.
What's to stop some in Israel from thinking that, sir, again, with the best of intentions, I see where you're coming from, maybe where the speaker's coming from, that, President Zelensky could warn Israel, we were front and center too with America. You better be careful because Americans might, lose patience and get the wear and tear of the war with you too.
Well, I've been critical of the way the administration has conducted the war and managed it. They've been very slow to get the weapons in. We do need more accountability, oversight. We need a path for victory. That's all my members really want to hear is what is your plan for victory? And I think you'll find the majority of them would support our allies in the region. This is a global interlinked threat against the United States and the West. So I think the speaker has come out messaging-wise saying he does support the effort in Ukraine, but we're going to have to get something in return for that. I think this is our best opportunity to get something on the border that could be a real game changer, as opposed to 7 million people that have come in to this country and then given notices to appear and released into our society.
It just seems to me less attention to Ukraine, regardless. More attention to the border, to your point, more attention to Israel for the moment, less so to Ukraine for the moment. Am I right to interpret it that?
But that will occur soon. I mean, you're going to see an aid package come out of the Senate that will have all 4 threats attached and linked together. So I don't want our friends in Ukraine to think we're abandoning them. We are supporting Israel this week. I think next week you're going to be looking at a Ukraine border bill, but also an Indo-Pacific bill to protect Taiwan and our friends in the Asian, Pacific from the threats coming out of communist China.
All right, Chairman Paul, it's good catching up with you.
That last piece is proving my point that there is going to be a 3-front war that's coming. And this issue in Israel is much bigger than we have seen in recent time. It could be categorized as biblical. So that's my take on it. So that's Fox's interview of the congressman. Please subscribe to all my channels. I have 3 YouTube channels. I have Rumble, Bitchute, and Brighteon. All the links are in the description of this video. Click the links and make sure that you are a subscriber to all my channels. Please help support my news coverage by donating on either Stripe or PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee. You can hit the link for Buy Me a Coffee in this video, which is in the description, and then you can donate through Stripe or PayPal by going to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and on the home page at the very bottom, you can hit the link for the Stripe or PayPal. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the health supplements, the health products that I offer, right? Follow my protocol. I've been telling everyone what to do in terms of neutralize pathogens, take strong antioxidants, and bring down inflammation, right? Some of the products that I offer on the store are Health Max 35. This is a structural nanosilver liquid. I take this with a teaspoon every day and it'll neutralize pathogens. I swallow it, right? Gargle with it. C60, very strong antioxidant. I offer this in coconut and avocado, 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and 8 ounce. This will bring down the reactive oxygen species. It's very potent and it'll help to improve the mitochondrial health and improve your ATP, which is the energy that you need in your cell. Turmeric. This is a great product to bring down inflammation. It's also an antioxidant. There's a common theme when it comes to an anti-aging protocol, and that is good antioxidants. Turmeric will bring down the inflammatory response. Ashwagandha will help with glucose levels, and by reducing those glucose levels, you'll be able to bring down that inflammatory response. Structural nanosilver lozenges. I have them in sweet menthol and green apple in a 20 count. I also have drops that are, the flavors are blueberry, and the other flavor is honey and lemon in a 100 count. So get your structural nanosilver lozenges and drops on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I have a silver gel, helps neutralize pathogens. You put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears and your eyes. It will stay active for 5 hours. And by doing that, you're reducing the chances of getting a cold or a pathogen. In addition, you can apply this on your skin, keep it on there overnight, and you'll notice that your skin health is improving and it'll tighten your skin on your face. You mix this product, you take this product also with collagen and drink 64 ounces of water and take my vitamin C, and you'll notice that the dermal layer, the lower layer of your skin, will start to improve. The key is to take the vitamin C, the collagen, and the 64 ounces of filtered water. Take the 64 ounces of filtered water throughout the day. Make sure that you do not drink fluoride, and you'll see an improvement in your skin. If you want an extra boost, then also take the C60 and the resveratrol for that skin protocol, and you'll improve your skin. I sell the best toothpaste that you can get. It's a structural nanosilver toothpaste. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce the inflammation at the gum line, and neutralize pathogens. When you do that on a regular basis, you are going to improve your cardiovascular health, your oral health, and your valvular health, your heart valve health. All right. Poor oral hygiene will lead to cardiovascular problems and valvular problems. It's not the only way that valvular problems happen, but it is a way. This toothpaste is the best toothpaste you can get, and instead of supporting Alex Jones, might as well support DrPaulCottrell. Go to my store and get the toothpaste that I offer. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description. Get a few tubes of toothpaste. I also sell multiple varieties of structural nanosilver soaps. helps to neutralize pathogens. It's a very high quality soap. Please go to my store and get the soap. Clarity Factor. This product is better than Alex Jones's Brain Force. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and support me instead of Alex Jones. And this product will reduce the brain fog and keep those dendritic connections happening, and you get those neurons firing, and you'll be able to concentrate at work and in school. I take it twice a day. Some people take it just once a day. Lignans are for hormonal health and to boost your immune system. This is a powder. I take it every day. I put it in hummus. You can put it in a smoothie, or you can just mix it with water and take it every day to help improve your immune system and to help to improve your hormonal system. This has been found to help reduce the chances of cancer. Multivitamin. This is a great product that will help with the digestion of taking a multivitamin, because some people have issues with digesting multivitamins. This is easy on your stomach, and it's a high quality multivitamin. And when you have the cofactors that are in this, the minerals and the vitamins that are in this, you'll have the concentration of the cofactors to be able to have better cellular processes. Your enzymes need cofactors, and these cofactors will help those enzymatic activity. If you don't have them, then you'll have subpar activity. So having a good multivitamin. The protocol is really, really, really simple. Neutralize pathogens, reduce inflammation, take strong antioxidants, and you'll age better. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take a look at all the products that I have. Please also subscribe to my Patreon account, and through a nominal fee, you can help support my news coverage that way also. Thank you for listening. Please share my work, and have a nice day.